Between civil law and the military law could jeopardize the search for closure in the triple murders that were recorded 5 years ago. That is, of the former officer, Major Peter Mwaura Mugure, who wants a court handling this matter to forthwith stop his trial and issue a prohibitory order against the continuation of the criminal proceedings against him by the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, arguing that the DPP lacks jurisdiction over him as a military officer. He further wants the same court to issue a prohibitory order against the Director of Military Prosecutions, since he from the onset was involved in dereliction of duty. If the court agrees with Mugure, then the truth concerning the murders of Mugure's estranged wife, Joyce Siombua, and two children, Shanice Maua and Prince Michael, may go down the drain, or at the very least force investigators back to the drawing board close to 5 years since their murders.
In a potentially precedence-setting petition by Peter Mwaura Mugure, the issue of whether military officers bound by service laws under the Kenya Defence Forces Act No. 25 of 2012 could be investigated and prosecuted under civilian laws may be put to rest. Mugure argues that by the time of his arrest on suspicion of the triple murders in November the 15th, 2019, he was serving as a senior military officer. Thus, any investigations and arrests against him ought to have been conducted by the military police and not the National Police Service's Directorate of Criminal Investigations, whom he argues can only investigate and arrest civilians. He further says that his subsequent arraignment before a magistrate's court in Nanyuki and later before the High Court in Nyeri was unlawful, since as a military officer bound by the KDF Act, he ought to have been presented for a summary trial before a commanding officer or appropriate senior authorities, or to have been taken through a court-martial. He thus contends as illegal, unlawful and unconstitutional his prosecution by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, saying he is a subject of the Director of Military Prosecutions. Section 4 of the KDF Act provides for its applications and states that this act applies to the following persons: A, every member of the regular forces, and G, a person who, though not otherwise subject to this act, is in civil custody or in service custody of any service offence committed or suspected to have been committed by the person. Mugure says that he fits the description in A and G above. Thus, he is only subject to the Act and not the Criminal Procedure Code, which all civilians are subject to. Mugure says in court documents that the process he was taken through is a threat to his constitutional rights, privileges and limitations, which is tantamount to committing a sacrilegious act or omission against the Constitution and the KDF Act, which he cites as the holy book for the KDF and persons subjected to it. The man who earlier had the Employment and Labour Relations Court term his dismissal from the Kenya Defence Force as unfair and lawful and unconstitutional, even getting damages worth 2 million shillings in his favour, now wants the court to grant him 30 million shillings damages fee if it finds that his rights were infringed in his trial and continued detention to date. If his petition is successful, then the murders of Joyce Siombua and her children, Shanice Maua and Prince Michael, believed to have occurred inside the Laikipia Air Base in 2019, may just become another statistic in the list of cold cases in Kenya. Will justice ever be served for the slain young mother and her two children? Ibrahim Karanja, NTV.